This is Mike with Enterprise Express Tax Service. Today I'm going to be talking about a form called the 1040X. It's called the 1040X. This is actually related to amended returns and circumstances where you may have to ask your tax preparer to amend your tax return. For instance, if within the tax year you get another earning statement like a W-2 that you forgot about or that the company forgot to send to you before you filed your tax return. Now, if that happens, your option would be to file an amended return. Another circumstance could be, for instance, an aunt of yours reminded you that you could file her as a dependent because she's not been working for the last year. And you say, okay, that can work because that may, for instance, get you some more money back. All right. That's another scenario where you may decide to file an amended return and add your auntie onto your amended return as a dependent. And usually what I tell people is make sure that it actually makes a difference that's worth the work. Meaning that if you have to pay a tax preparer or your CPA to amend your tax return, you want to be sure that whatever you're getting out of it, makes sense. But sometimes it's not so much about how much you're getting back. It could be that you just have to do it. I've seen cases, for instance, when some parents are applying for a FAFSA, FAFSA, for their kids. And due to the circumstances and the benefits of either having their kids as dependents or not, they may decide to amend their tax return. So there's so many different scenarios where you have a need to amend your tax return. But the key thing is this. The form that's used to amend a personal tax return is called the 1040X, called the 1040X. And for most of your state returns, for instance, in Maryland, which is where I live and practice, my Maryland state amended return is the 502X. So it always has an X at X prefix at the end of it. Um, a couple of things that I want to point out. The amended returns are usually filed by paper. However, a couple of years ago, the Internal Revenue Service made it such that you can file your most recent tax year's amended return by electronic filing, by e-file. So for instance, if we're in the 2025 tax filing year now, the IRS does make it possible for you to file your 2024 amended return via e-file, but not any prior years before that. Okay. But with most of the states, what I've noticed is that they usually require you to paper file your amended returns. And so with that, you need to give an allowance of extra time. I'm telling most of my clients who need to file amended returns that they need to give at least 2 to 3 calendar months. And that's because the IRS has been running behind and most of the state agencies are running behind as well. But the other thing, of course, is that when you're in the filing season, the tax agencies place importance on filing, excuse me, filing the current year tax returns. And so amended returns most likely will wait until the crux of the filing season is over before they pay attention to those amended returns. And again, most of those amended returns are going to be paper returns as well, which requires more manual labor, for want of a better word. And so that's the main thing with amended return. So definitely file an amended return if there's a need to, and if you can determine that it's going to make a difference to your tax return. And like I said, in some cases you absolutely have to file one because it's necessary. Cost, whether it's going to cost you more money or not. Also, what you want to know is amended returns generally take longer to process than your regular, tax returns. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, most amended returns are filed by paper, even though with the IRS you can file the most recent prior tax year by e-file. But even then, that does not guarantee that it's going to be processed with the same speed as a current year tax return. And another thing to know, of course, is that with the state amended returns, most of them, if not all of them, are going to be filed by paper. And that means that it's going to take longer as well. There's one last thing that I want you guys to take note of as well. When you file a federal amended return, which is a 1040X, you will be required to also file a state amended return. But bear in mind, there's a couple of caveats here. Your federal return will take some time to get amended. And so if you file both of them at the same time, it's quite possible that your state amended return gets there and they're going to try to want to confirm if your federal return has been amended as well. And so sometimes that causes a little bit of confusion. So usually what I tell my clients is go ahead, file the federal amended return, which is a 1040, and give a little bit of time, maybe a month or 2 months before you file the state amended return. So that gives some buffer time for the state to catch up with the federal or vice versa. All right, so that's just my way of ensuring that there's no confusion with that. So once again, this is a short, primer about the 1040 Form 1040X, which is for amending tax returns. And one thing that I would advise anyone who's thinking about amending a tax return, and if you want to self-educate yourself, is to go ahead and download the 1040X from the IRS website and just go through it, take a look at it, and see what it looks like, get a feel for the different columns in there. And uh, I would definitely recommend that if you're amending your tax return for the first time, use a professional. And that's because amended returns are just not quite like your regular 1040s. And I'll, throw a scenario before you. You have to compare what was filed, and then you have to put in the new numbers of what you're going to file. So the amended return form, the 1040X, takes into account the changes that you are inserting, or rather, you're changing your 1040 to, with new numbers, new figures, or new circumstances. And that can be a little confusing, especially if you're not used to doing it or if you're doing it for the first time. And even when you go through tax software like TurboTax and HR Blocks software, sometimes it's not as intuitive. And I've seen a lot of people make mistakes and end up coming back to me, to redo it. So take that into consideration. If it's your first time, I would definitely recommend that you use a tax professional who knows what they're doing, who's done it a number of times. It takes doing it quite a number of times for you to really get used to doing an amended tax return. All right, so this is Michael Ogechi Abbey, giving a little primer on the 1040X, which is used for the amended returns, and the nuances that you, as a tax payer, you need to sort of be aware of when you are filing an amended tax return. Thanks. Bye.